Okay, so we'll start. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, thank you very much for coming today. I know that this is a short notice for several of you, so we appreciate your presence. My name is Nihad Awad, Nihad Awad. I'm the National Executive Director of CAIR, the Council on American Islamic Relations. I'll make a brief statement, then I will ask my colleagues here to come to the podium and give their own statement representing their organizations. First of all, I would like to express our thoughts and prayers with the victims of the ISIS's attacks in France. In the same fashion, we express our thoughts and prayers for the victims of the ISIS's attacks in Syria, in Lebanon, and in Turkey. ISIS has been launching a war on mainly Muslims in the region and those who disagree with their politics. We also wish speedy recovery for all the injured ones of these attacks. We are revolted by this heinous and despicable attack on civilian populations. And our response to ISIS should be swift, should be methodical, and should be principled. Our focus should be on the victims of these attacks. In fighting ISIS, we should remind ourselves to stick to our principles and not descend to their level. We hear talks about closing the borders to refugees. And let's remember that these refugees have been running away and fleeing the attacks of ISIS and the killing machine of Bashar al-Assad. They're looking for freedom, and let's not punish the victims twice. ISIS is violating every principle and faith that God has given mankind. ISIS does not represent Muslims. The majority of the victims of ISIS attacks are Muslim, and Muslims worldwide, in the US, in Europe, in the Middle East, have condemned and continue to condemn the brutal nature of this terrorist organization. Let's not legitimize ISIS and help them in their propaganda by calling them the Islamic State. They're not Islamic, they're not state, they're anti-Islamic. Let's not call them jihadis. They have nothing to do with jihad. Jihad is a legitimate self-defense in Islam. Let's not give them this legitimizing titles. They are brutal killers. They have no legitimacy. And I urge media, politicians, analysts to be very careful with the choice of their words. ISIS is appealing to the marginalized, disenfranchised, and alienated young people in the Middle East and in the West. Let's not help ISIS recruit more young, disenfranchised, and alienated young people. And we urge the Western powers to work with the local Muslim communities, to work on the violent extremism, but let's not alienate the Muslims in Europe and Muslims in the Middle East and Muslims in the US by misguided policies. We should work together as we are partners in this fight against the terrorists of ISIS. Thank you. I would like now to call on the Secretary General of USCMO, the U.S. Council of Muslim Organizations, Usama Jamal, to give a statement, which is a coalition of major Muslim organizations, and this is the principal organization that the Muslim community has. Usama.
Thank you. Again, my name is Usama Jamal, O-U-S-S-A-M-A. Last name is J-A-M-M-A-L. The U.S. Council of Muslim Organizations, USCMO, is a coalition of leading national and local Muslim organizations, strongly condemns the abhorrent terror attacks that took place yesterday in Paris and left over 150 innocent people dead and scores injured. The U.S. Council of Muslim Organizations stands consistent with its position against all forms of violence against innocent people anywhere, from Turkey to Beirut, to Syria, to Paris, and on our soil, irrespective of the perpetrators, targets, or reasons. These repugnant acts of violence defy the sanctity of every innocent human life and shall always be condemned and rejected. The U.S. Council of Muslim Organizations sends its heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims and to the people of France, and stands in solidarity with them against terrorism and violent extremism. We ask the American Muslim community around the nation to hold candlelight vigils in memory of the victims and in support of their families. Thank you.
Thank you, Usama. Now I'd like to call on Ibrahim Mu'min, representative of Masjid Muhammad, the nation's mosque.
My name is Ibrahim Mukman, and I'm representing Imam Talib Sharif. He's the leader of the nation's mosque, Masjid Muhammad, here in Washington, D.C. Masjid Muhammad is the oldest Muslim community located in the capital of America, dating back to the mid-1930s, released the following statement in response to the recent attacks in Paris. We join our president, the U.S. Council of Muslim Organizations, and all right-minded people around the world who are offering condolences and prayers from the deepest place in our hearts and souls for the people of France and the families of the innocent lives taken by yet another atrocious, senseless, and act of violence. Representing Masjid Muhammad, the nation's mosque, the mosque CAIR's Ministry of W.D. Muhammad, and over 30 mosques and Islamic centers, we strongly condemn this terrorist attack in France and any such attacks anywhere in the world. We continue to be shocked and pained by these criminal, cowardly attacks against humanity, and they must be stopped. While ISIL has claimed responsibility, the nature of their inhumane behavior and killings gravely misrepresent al-Islam and attest to their lack of basic education and scholarship of Quranic teachings, Islamic principles, and history. Our position is that it doesn't matter who the attackers are or what they claim. Their actions are criminal, inhumane, and not condoned by Islam, Christianity, Judaism, or any of the other beautiful faith communities. Any person or group, no matter how desperate their situation, no matter how much their hearts are paining, or whatever their cause, there is no justification for them to murder and make helpless, vulnerable, or innocent humans the target of their hate, their hurt, or their cause. All acts of violence, whether committed by people claiming a faith or committed against people of different faiths, are all desperate attempts for legitimacy and recruitment to their causes and are an outright betrayal of their faith that they claim. We are committed to eliminating violent extremism and working for peace. We are involved in interfaith relations nationally and internationally, and we work with all levels of government, the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Justice Department, as well as our own 6 weeks Countering Violence Extremism course to reduce this ill in society, and we plan to do more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Now I would like to call on Imam Johari Abdul Malik, representing Muslim Alliance in North America.
Good morning. Imam Johari Abdul Malik, IMAM JOHARI ABDUL-MALIK. I come this morning representing the Muslim Alliance in North America, and our statement reads, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, we stand together with the U.S. CMO and all people of conscience, saying that the scriptures of the Quran teach us that if you take the life of one person, it would be as if you had taken the life of all of humanity. Our prayers and condolences go out to the families of those who have lost their loved ones and to the injured in this tragedy. As people of faith and moral conviction, we encourage everyone to reach out to one another during this time of crisis, no matter what their race or religion, their national origin or gender. President Barack Obama said it well in his statement from the White House yesterday. This attack is not just in Paris. It is not just an attack on the French people, but this is an attack on all of humanity and the universal values that we share. I would like to let everyone know that we believe that evil only triumphs when good people do nothing. Therefore, we stand in solidarity with the French people and call upon the Muslim community, both in France and in the United States, to redouble their efforts and vigilance in confronting extremism wherever they may find it. As an aside, we know that in America, that the Muslim community has been on the front line of identifying extremists within our community as others have done in their communities. An attack on my neighbor is an attack on me. And it could have been anyone's child, husband or wife, brother or sister, mother or father that was killed in the random act of violence in Paris yesterday. We must create a community of trust and cooperation. Someone in Paris knows the individuals who were involved in this, and we are calling upon them to come forward just as Muslims in America have come forward, joining together with our neighbors. Dr. King reminds us in his famous statement from the Birmingham jail that we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied together in a single garment of destiny, that whatever affects one directly affects all of us indirectly. And therefore, a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We, as the Muslim Alliance in North America, send our condolences and extend our hand to do whatever we can in the way to bring peace and cooperation, solidarity in this time of crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Imam Johari. Last but not least is MD Ziaul Islam, representing MUNA, Muslim Ummah of North America.
Good morning. My name is MD Ziaul Islam, Ziaulislam. I am representing Muslim Ummah of North America, which is one of the founding members of U.S. Council of Muslim Organizations and one of the largest Muslim organizations in America. So Muslim Ummah of North America has been condemned the attack on the historical place Paris in France. Thank you.
Thank you, MD. Now, if you have any question, please identify yourself, and we'll give just a few minutes for a Q&A. Any questions? Otherwise, you feel free to have one-on-one. Yes, please.
What do you think is the most important thing for America and the world to know about what you folks think?
We have been consistent with our statements and positions of condemnation of terrorist and terrorist acts. And we find sometimes ourselves in an awkward position that having to come to defend ourselves and defend our faith against claims by ISIS and other people. The overwhelming majority of Muslims worldwide condemn these heinous attacks, and they condemn ISIS and its affiliates. And we always assert ourselves as partners in this fight. We're citizens, and we do not have to be even defensive. We question sometimes the judgment of people when they try to paint the entire Muslim population with one brush. We are one, we're united, and we should continue to be principled and hopeful for the future. Let's just take the fight to ISIS. Let's not divide ourselves in France, in Europe, in the US. And we have a special call and urge to presidential candidates to show leadership, true leadership, by being a uniting force, not to appeal to the worst instinct of humans, the division, stereotypes, and attitudes against other minorities and refugees. The time for America to take a leadership, to stick to our principles, to stick to our values, and protect the weak, and not scapegoat the weak and the refugees. This is time for leadership, time to differentiate between the terrorist and the innocent. Yes.
With AP. So, Mr. Jamal, you asked American Muslims to hold candlelight vigils, and Imam you asked people to redouble their efforts in confronting extremism. Is there anything else that we should get out as requests to whether it's American Muslims or Americans generally?
Well, certainly, this is a time, as we expressed, it's a tragedy, it's a sadness, and this is the time we stand together in solidarity to announce to ISIS and to everyone like ISIS that the goodwill of people, the true Muslims, will never buy into their narrative, will never condone their actions. They are alien to our values and to our teachings, and therefore we reject every single statement, every single action that they have made. They do not represent us, and these vigils are to bring the communities together, to remember those who have lost their lives, and to stand in support of the families, that we are all together in this, and we will not let anyone divide us or to take advantage of situations like this and create more divisions among our communities. So that's the whole purpose, and I hope that will be a strong message to ISIS and the likes.
Probably I need to be as clear as I can in saying that the individuals who committed these acts in Paris are enemies, not just to the French people, not just to Christians, not just enemies to Jews, but they are enemies to Muslims. That they didn't ask us whether they had religious permission or authority. This is some extreme group that has declared war on all of us. And therefore, just as in America, and there have been reports produced by CAIR showing that when Muslims who live in a community, who are engaged in a community, identify that someone is acting unusual, maybe they are a newcomer to the community, or maybe they are a young person that's acting strange, it is only members of the community who can be involved in the work of public safety. Maybe in France, they should take a lesson from how we did our work, not to create a police state in France, not to increase monitoring and screening and cameras, but for school teachers. President Obama talked about this. School teachers, coaches in schools, people who live and work in a community, to identify what is happening with their neighbor and to bring them together. Maybe it's someone of another faith, but who has an influence, to be able to reach out to someone and to interdict these actions before they can take place. This is what we have been successful in doing in America. The program that you talked about at Masjid Muhammad, reaching out and identifying who is your neighbor, what's going on in your neighborhood, in order to make all of our communities better. That's our call. The visual is just a way of bringing our communities together and telegraphing that message at the local level.
I think there was another part of the questions you asked about counter-violent extremism, and I would like to make it very clear that the U.S. councils and member organizations do stand unequivocally in support of countering every violent extremist ideas out there in our communities and somewhere else. We have taken a lead in educating the community, especially the youth and others, that these types of idea and ideology is un-Islamic. It is not the teachings of our faith, and that we will do everything that is possible to protect our community and our youth from these terrible ideas. And we have been in full support, and we've been working with law enforcement. And we do have concern of stigmatizing our community as if we are the only one who has some violent acts in their communities. It is unfortunately the gun violence incidents that we see every once in a while is symptoms of a greater problems of violence. However, we do not condone any act of violence. We do not condone any extreme ideas, and we are in full force working with the community to eradicate the extreme ideas and the violent extremism. So this is a standing that has been long, and it is evident by the minimum number of incidents in the U.S., and thanks to all those organizations who are working day and night with the community and making sure that we do not get this type of violence. But it's a challenge to all of us, and we will continue to work on it.